Hi, I'm Camilla Blossom, and I'm going to talk about witch wounds today, what they are, and how you can work with them. And really asking, like, are witch wounds blocking your way, or holding you back? So we'll be looking at these persecution, soul, karma, these wounds, and see um, if this can help you understand them more and to see kind of what are some next steps to work with that. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about myself because sometimes I feel like the queen of witch wounds. I've had so much karma on this one and had a lot of healers see that and say. And so what that has created for me has been like soul loss, where aspects of me have been traumatized in these soul experiences. And so I do not have full access to those. And so it is also, some people call that soul sickness, when you do not have that connection anymore to the earth, to source, to your medicine. And so I've been on this journey for 35 years longer to heal my soul loss, to heal these witch wounds, to heal these persecution, victim wounds. It's very much something common among women who are healers, who are sensitive, who are empaths, who are doing this work on behalf of the earth and nature. Many of us, because we come from lineages as herbalists, as midwives, as healers, as medicine people, and that can apply to men as well, or any gender. It's kind of what lifetimes you have experienced and part of what your purpose is here at this time. And so my purpose was about bringing through how we reconnect and communicate in relationship with nature and the earth and the plants and trees. And so it was very important for me to continue healing this and to recognize what it was and to see like how things that happened as a soul through many different incarnations, depending on what kind of soul you are. I'm an old soul. I come from very ancient times. And so I've had many experiences in many lifetimes where I was experiencing things on this earth and working with the earth and as a healer, medicine person, and then going through these really hard things. And to give you an example, like when in the 90s, I went for my Reiki attunement. And so I was in Reiki 1, the first attunement. And after I had that experience of being initiated, and it was really beautiful, actually. It was a beautiful spiritual initiation and opening for me. And I could see like a 1,000-petal lotus opening up. And so I had this beautiful vision. And then afterwards, our group that I was in the class with, and we're laying hands and doing Reiki on someone. And as soon as I got up to the table and put my hands out, I felt horrible. I felt like I was going to keel over. I pretty much did. So I went down, went away, and the teacher came over and she was kind of tuning in and just said, "You have lots and lots of karma and hard experiences that you've gone through as a soul. And so for this initiation, anytime I would step up into something new, there was like a process of moving over the fears, moving through the blocks, pushing past. And this is like the story of my life, I realize, is that that I've had to continually bump up against these moments, these times where it was hard to move forward. It's been hard to do the work that I'm doing, even. Like some people look at it and go, "Oh, look at what she's doing. She's got a whole business of it." But what I've had to do to come to this place of being a medicine woman, being an energy healer, being a mentor, being a teacher, offering the things I do, writing the books that I've written, like that came with a lot of healing, a lot of attention, a lot of awareness around these, particularly the witchy wounds. And so that was like one of the first key experiences that kind of helped me understand, oh, okay, I have a lot of healing karma and I can start claiming that. And along the way, that meant, yeah, going through these healing experiences in order to understand what these deep patterns are that live in me. And to the extent, just to share a little, like, I even have had that fear of the word witch, like, especially, 30, 20 years ago, like it wasn't as common and sort of brought back into the language in a different way. I know a lot of you young ones have a great relationship with that word witch. But for me, it just never felt comfortable to call myself a witch, to claim that, to be it, even though other people said, oh, she's a green witch. Or I've also had a real block about the word spell and the whole idea of doing spells, white magic, even black magic, definitely, because I've had a lot of shamanic and witch karma. And I've also been in many experiences in this lifetime where I've had to deal with people like cursing me, trying to put spells on me, sending negative projections, like a lot of stuff, soul lessons playing out with different shamans and people. And so that's something that I've had to deal with for decades to heal and notice. And I think some of you who are waking up more recently may not have to go through as much, or you might have really fast lessons about it. Or some of us who are more pioneering, I guess you could call it, some of these processes making it easier for the flow of the spiritual energy to move through. And, I've done a lot of ancestral and soul healing work with many people to help them heal this and to heal not only it can come. Okay, so the witch wounds, let me back up for a minute here. So just to make sure you understand what the witch wounds are, what these persecution imprints, persecution karma, whatever you want to call it, they're kind of like a trauma, intergenerational, intersoul trauma that gets carried in our body because our soul, through our soul. And so those can bring patterns forward, like fears of going swimming, fear of fire, fear of being powerful, fear of your sexuality, fear of stepping forward in your path, right? So these witch wounds or patterns or traumas can really be carried in different places. They can actually be in your bloodline. Some of us have medicine people that have been persecuted in our physical bloodline. And so I do work with the ancestry to help people with that. If that's something you do need, or find someone who does that. You can also work on the soul level, which on the soul level, there can be these wounds, or like I was saying, the soul loss, these places that have been so traumatized, have been drowned, been harmed, been killed, been maimed, gone through a lot of really hard things. And I think you guys know, you probably know you're one of these people. And so, so one of the things to recognize too, that really helped me clearing these patterns, or when they would surface, like, what is this? Like, what's happening here? And going deeper. And it's really about the power or distortion of judgment. Okay. And as we know, we live in an extremely judgmental society. Like, you're either right. People like to say, there's right and wrong, like I'm right, you're wrong, or that kind of division. This polarized world that we're in of duality creates a world of judgment. And plus, our culture raises us to be very judgmental. And so there's a lot of healing that needs to be done that we're all doing, I believe, and encourage, for if this video resonates, for you to really look at your judgment. And also, like, not only how you may judge, but how you're hurt by the judging of others. How when someone says something, when they hate on you or send you a bad comment, like, ugh, like, is that a trigger? And so recognizing that when we are being judged, like, that's a big trigger for this trauma, right? Because when we're judged, even if it's just like, oh, I don't like your dress, or, you know, whatever, something smaller, what it's doing is it's sending that energy, kind of like a psychic attack, to say something negative towards us. So learning to protect yourself from that, of course, but that when you receive that, recognizing those triggers and knowing, oh, like if I'm judged, or if my family doesn't love me, or if my partner doesn't love me anymore, or if they're judging me as not good enough or not for them, like that can immediately trigger like survival, right? Root chakra. Like, am I going to survive? Like, if this person thinks I'm weird, or if this person thinks what I'm into is really taboo or not okay, or the church I go to is like really frowning on the practices that you have with the earth, or your prayers to the gnomes, or your connection with the trees, right? If those kind of experiences, you know, create a trigger for you, but also like come from the judgment around you, that can really surface and actually help heal like that persecution karma, that witch karma. But ultimately, at the core of it, what I see is that in those lifetimes, we were judged. We were judged as bad, as wrong, as shameful, as guilty, as whatever they wanted to say. And people were doing it about their neighbors who weren't at all into this stuff. They just didn't like them, or thought they were too sexy, or too perfect, or too beautiful, or whatever the thing was, or too ugly. Then people were judged, and then the community would rally around and kill people, right? Or maim them, harm them. And so we healers carry that. Some of us carry those soul memories, the soul imprints, the witch wounds. We carry those at our core, these patterns of being persecuted, of being harmed, for speaking out, for being ourselves, for loving the earth, for having a family that liked to dance around the maypole or whatever. So this goes really deep into our lineages, right? And this kind of energy is probably gone on in all different, you know, countries across the planet. These kind of persecutions, and they still go on. So yeah, so it can really be scary. Yeah, so another piece that I think is really important to work on, besides the piece of the judgment, is to really look at how your relationship with being a victim. And as we know, if you've done any kind of spiritual awakening or work, like being a victim is going to keep you in kind of the negative egoic world. And it's not really helpful for moving forward and creating the dreams, the dream life, and the energy of the 5D and the beauty that we want to be in and that we're creating. And so being a victim, yeah, it's sort of that sense that, you know, something happened to us and someone else did that. And so it sets up more duality, more polarity. And I know this can be really difficult, especially going through sexual trauma in this lifetime, or even ancestral intergenerational trauma. So the way like that I've found to deal with it is to recognize like, oh, there's things surfacing, and I definitely feel like this happened to me. Like really acknowledge and recognize that, yeah, you went through this hard thing, whether that was your soul, whether that was your body in this lifetime, your family or something. But work on lifting yourself, like pay attention to that, sit with it, feel it, do the work, get help, all the things that you need for the healing, do ancestral soul healing, but also ultimately to work with how to raise yourself above victimhood. Because there's a triangle, actually, a trine of disempowerment, which includes if you're playing the victim, if you're playing the rescuer, if you're playing the perpetrator. Like those roles, like we trade places. Like, yeah, I might have felt like a victim going through the healing of a lot of these witch wounds, but I also played into the perpetrator, played into being a rescuer. So those three roles and archetypes that we, especially as healers, medicine people may play, or just in your life you play out, those are actually the triad of disempowerment. And so our goal is to recognize that, learn about it, and then work to elevate our awareness, elevate our consciousness, elevate ourselves more to the sacred witness, that we can be neutral, that we won't be triggered by these experiences or go into these roles of rescuing everyone you know that has witch wounds, right? So it's an interesting play, and it that triangle, the triads, really helped me kind of work with these different energies to move beyond staying in that victim role. Yeah. So I'd say those are really great tools to share with you, working with judgment, working with the disempowerment triangle, getting some healing help. And then I wanted to share a really cool, like I've noticed that these are still coming up for me. Like I've done tons of work on it over, 30 some odd years, but I do notice that it still comes up at times, like remnants or subtle level patterns that I carry. And one came up recently, just a few days ago, and I was tuning in. Okay, what's this witch wound about? Or what's this soul loss? I was kind of asking about soul retrieval, like how we can call back. And this is another really powerful piece. And if you're not familiar enough with it, seek help. It's something I do with people a lot. A lot of shamans do this work, or shamanic practitioners, energy healers. And so the soul loss, okay, coming around. Okay. So I was tuning into the soul loss that I was experiencing kind of on the subtle level, and realizing, oh, there was some things about water. And it's so interesting because February was all about water. Like I read all these books about water. I did this whole puzzle that was underwater pictures. The mermaids were calling. I was working with Willow. Like everything was about water. And then what came up, which was so interesting, was this persecution wound, this witch wound that was about being drowned, very specifically a couple lifetimes. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I sunk into that, like asking to feel or be witness, sacred witness to that experience. And at the same time, really honoring the water. We want to really keep our relationship with the elementals that may have been our demise, to heal that as well. So like I wanted the water, because I love the water so much, and I didn't want to feel like blaming or any negative energy about water, even though I died that way. And that's another one for fire. I think it's important because some of us have real fear of the elements or elementals because of these witch wounds and experiences of trauma and death. So I kind of went into a couple of these things. And in a way, the way that I work with it is kind of like a dreamscape that I'm returning to, not having to feel every little thing or know every little detail, but just kind of get the essence of the pattern of the, asking our guides, of course, the patterns of the wounds, the patterns of the drowning, the trauma, and just like bringing a lot of love and gratitude and gentleness to my soul, to help them recognize like, oh, this was a really hard way to die and is really sad, to be judged and harmed and killed this way. And it's part of the life experience that we've been in, this crazy world. And so really holding that healing and gratitude and asking for the resolution the healing, the release of the trauma, and just letting that unwind. And I think a lot of you may know like naturally how to do that, or just sit with it and meditate and allow that to move, and asking guides for help. But if this is feeling like a lot, I definitely encourage you to get help and work with someone or ask someone for more information. But what was really interesting was I was kind of told to journey in deeper to find this aspect of my soul that was lost during the drownings. And I was led by the dolphins back to these caves that I've visited at different times in my trance journey states. And they were keeping aspects of my soul safe for me from those experiences. And it really touched me. And they brought them back and they helped me bring them in. They helped me process it back in. They helped me integrate it. They were singing with me. And it was just really sweet. And then when I was sitting down to make this video today, this was just a few days ago, I wrote the word down, pattern clearing. And then I wrote dolphins with the karma, because they were things I wanted to talk about. And then I'm like, oh, of course. So I've worked with dolphins and their energy. They're star beings, and they are pattern clearers, changers, breakers. And so I was like, oh my God, how perfect. They were helping me clear this witch wound pattern, the pattern of persecution, the pattern of judgment, these patterns of trauma, of harm, especially to that woman, the divine feminine self. And so, yeah, kind of like breaking the patterns of patriarchy, right? Or these different cultural and states and darkness that has pitted men and women against each other, or powerful women against the whole culture. And so these are really, big issues that we're all working with, no matter what gender you are. So, yeah, so the dolphins can come and you can ask them to help shift the patterns and break through. Yeah. And also, I think being really like gentle with yourself, like to know that all of us, especially us healers and people doing shamanic and deep work, that we go through like more kind of experience than you can ever imagine. And like I'm saying, this has been going on for a long time. And so it's required me to be super aware every day of my intuition, of how I'm feeling, my inner authority, how I feel, what's going on. And so in a way, there's a gift for us and for me to share with you, that you too can, live a more purposeful life, a life in your mission where you aren't stopped because of fear or something that happened to your soul, that you can move forward, you can move through these blocks. So I think this is a really important point, because sometimes, and also being a Libra, I sometimes have a really hard time making decisions, and it gets exacerbated because of my karma, because of those fears, the judgments, the cultural taboos, you name it, right? So it's a continual dance of learning how to recognize when there's fear and resistance and sit with that, or heal another piece of karma or soul loss that's come up, so that I can feel whole enough to go, oh yeah, my body really wants to do this. Like for me now, it's working with trees, and I'm opening a Sacred Tree Mysteries journey, starting the end of March. So like that for me, is another piece of stepping forward. I've worked with flowers and flower essences and trees. I've worked with land, alchemy, healing. I've worked with the waters, worked with elementals, fairies, and lots of different ways of earth ceremony. So I've been on this path for quite a long time. But still, just bringing forward this course for 2025, I had to spend a year or so really working through, meeting with ancestors that were tree keepers, and then the ancient trees were cut down so that we wouldn't have our temples, our churches anymore. Or so some of it really feeling it in my lineage, as well as those soul experiences of what happened to the trees, what happened to the forest, what happened to those of us who were doing the ceremonies, were healing the people, helping the animals and being in that world. So just be really gentle and compassionate with yourself that you may be, working through and learning to neutralize. And also that whenever like we do big clearings or we do take a leap of faith, which 2025, like that is what this year is to take your leap of faith, is to do it. Even if you're scared, even if you don't think you have enough money or you don't think you can possibly make it happen, like this is the year, this is the time to take those steps, to take those risks, to not hold back. And so actually this morning I woke up feeling kind of weird, and I think I needed to make this video because we need to all together collectively like push through these old witch wounds and karma or whatever they are and or whatever might be holding you back, and just know that you can do it, you've got it, and we need you. We definitely need you. You're important. You're part of a really specific, important role. And so please go for it. Yeah. Thanks for listening, and really great to be able to share this. It felt healing for me too. It's something I've been kind of working with very privately, mostly privately, for a long time. And so to share it out loud is great and healing. And feel free to do that with others, leave comments, share how you've dealt with it or how you've healed it too. We've got a community here, so I love to hear from you. Have you subscribe, join. And then for those who really want to, open to that calling, move through whatever to connect with the consciousness of trees, of the ancient ones, the record keepers, and their elemental spirits. I am doing my tree mystery school. And so you can learn more below or go to my website, camillablossom.com. And I have a free event on March 30th to kick it off called Cosmic Mother Tree Journey of Remembering. And so that's kind of to open the doorway, and you can experience what I do and the magic and the journey. And then if that is a calling for you, I do have an early bird special too, if you want to check that out. Okay, have a beautiful day. And to all you witches, all you magic ones, all you priestesses, earth keepers, earth workers, grid workers, star seeds, empaths, sensitives. Thank you for being here. I know it's not easy for people who are so sensitive like us. Hang in there. You're not alone. We've got this. We're doing it together. And this year, magic is unfolding. So go for it. Okay. Bye.